If you've been following along our drip irrigation series, in our previous videos I talked to you about all these different parts that you need to create a drip irrigation system. In our last video I showed you how to divide your garden into different zones so that you can plan your irrigation system and water everything efficiently and effectively. Today we're going to be getting into the nitty-gritty of actually building an irrigation system, and we're here at a residence where we are going to be replacing an existing irrigation manifold. So you can see right here we have two valves that are dividing this whole property into only two stations. We are going to now change that to a 4-valve system so that we can divide the garden into 4 different spaces. We're also going to leave some room for an expansion if we ever need to add more stations later. Before we get started digging or cutting anything out, we need to evaluate what we have existing, right? So with any irrigation system, we want to be cutting into our main line, our water main, where there's a constant flow of pressure, because our valves are going to pull from that constant flow of pressure and turn on and off to send water to our different stations. So just as a review, we have constant water coming up into the valve, and then the valve is turning on and off, sending water out to a station. So in this configuration, what we have is we have a 3/4 inch copper pipe that is coming up to this location. That pipe is split into two. One set of pipes is going into the house, so that's where the house's water is coming in, and we have a shut-off valve for the house. And then a separate branch of that copper pipe is going towards our irrigation, and we also have a shut-off valve for that. So what we want to be working on is this side of the piping here. We don't want to be touching anything here. We don't want to be messing with any pipes or any water going into the house. We're just going to be working with this side. So we're going to shut off this valve so that there's no water going into our existing manifold. So now we can cut everything out of here and replace it. So what I'm going to start with is just clearing up my space and digging up so I can find out, what's going on with these pipes, how they're configured underneath, so I can replace them. So I'm just going to rake all this mulch back. I'm going to dig the ground out and find all those existing pipes. One thing I just want to note while you see me do this is I'm still being really careful about how I'm digging. Even though I'm going to be cutting all of this out for now, I don't want to bust any existing pipes that are not related to what I'm working on. So especially here where water mains come in, you want to be digging pretty carefully so that you're not going to damage anything you don't want to damage. Now that everything has been excavated out, we can see exactly what's going on. And what I suspected was correct. We have our main water line that's coming in right about here. It's splitting off to our irrigation manifold over here, so you can see that copper pipe comes up. We have the shutoff here. We have the hose bib also, but then it comes down and it goes over to our existing irrigation manifold. There's a point down here where the copper converts into PVC, and that's what we use for our PVC pipe is what we use for our irrigation systems. We can also see one of the pipes that's coming out of the manifold. So this pipe right here when I was digging, I found this and I made sure I was not gonna break this, because this is one of the pipes that is going from the valve here, from the outlet side of the valve, and going out to the existing sprinkler system, which is what we're going to convert to a drip system. So I didn't want to damage that because we're still going to use that pipe. But we are now set up to proceed to the next step, which is to cut this old manifold out and build our new manifold to drop in. So I'm ready to just cut the old manifold out. I'm just going to cut through this pipe right here and lift this whole thing out. All right, so we actually have a problem. My shutoff valve here is leaking, and I still have some water coming out of the pipe. If I have that water coming out of the pipe, I cannot work on gluing new pipe in. So I'm actually going to have to go out to the street, shut the water off, then I can get a valve on here to close this up while I prepare everything else. All right, so I've got that leak under control. I got the water shut off from the street. So now I'm going to proceed to just cutting this out, and then we'll get some kind of closure on that leak. All right, everything is cut clear. We should be able to just lift this out now. And I can take off the wires. These are the wires that are going to our irrigation controller that are telling these valves when to turn on and off. One thing you have to know when you're starting irrigation is there's always something unexpected to come up. So once I took all this apart, I actually had a 1-inch male threaded connection down here on my copper pipe. And so I was actually wrong about what was down here. I thought that was a 3/4 inch. I had to go to the store and come back and get the right fittings. And this is also where that pipe knowledge from our first video comes in, because I needed to know, what are the correct set of fittings to get to continue the connection from this mainline pipe. So what we want to do first is we had to shut the water off to the whole house. We want to get that water back on. So we want to get this water line with a working shutoff valve on it. The existing shutoff valve was leaking, and that was a problem. So we got to put a new shutoff valve on. What we're going to do is we are going to put a series of fittings on here. So down here I have a male 1-inch threaded connection, and what I want to get to is a 3/4 inch female connection, slip connection on my valve, female slip connection. So the fittings that I'm going to be putting in, I'm going to start with a 1-inch female to female threaded to slip coupler that's going to screw onto here. Then from there, I'm going to reduce that down with this 1-inch slip reducer. That's going to 1-inch to 3/4 inch slip reducer. That's going to fit right in here. I'm going to put a little piece of pipe in there, and then I'm going to put an elbow. I'm going to put another piece of pipe into that, and then I'm going to attach my valve on here. And once that's glued up and set, which should only take about 2 minutes for it to be dry enough that I can turn the water back on, then the water will be back onto the house, and we can continue our work here without affecting the water in the house. I'm going to take this opportunity to show you how to properly glue up these pipes, and then we're going to put this together. So my plan right now is I'm going to glue up this section of fittings and pipe together. I'm going to put this coupler that needs to go onto that copper pipe in separately, and then I'm going to glue those together. So it's easier for me to glue up out here than having to do everything down in the hole. That's why I'm going to do this section in one piece. Then I can just easily slide that in to this fitting once it's in down there. So when we're gluing up, we want to have make sure all of our pipes are clean. Luckily right now I haven't had any chance to get these things too dirty, but you don't want to have any dirt particles in any of the fittings. We are going to use this Christie's Red Hot Blue Glue that's available at all hardware stores. And when we're gluing, we just want to make sure that we're getting a nice thick even layer over both sides of the connection. So to start off here, I'm going to do my reducer fitting, and I'm going to glue the inside of that nice and thick. Make sure that I have all the surfaces that are going to get glued covered. And then I'm going to get my pipe on the outside. And now I'm going to push these together. And after I push, I'm going to give it a little turn. That's just going to ensure that if there were any dirt particles in there, They're not creating a channel through the glue as I push the pieces together. So I'm going to continue on to my next one. Again, the full inside of where the connection is going to be, and then the full outside of the pipe. No gaps. Push those together, give it a little twist. And again, continuing on, next little piece of pipe. I'll do the fitting first, actually. Fitting. And now the piece of pipe. And push and turn. And finally, my valve. Fitting first. Pipe. Push and turn. And so now that is exactly how I want that to be to go on to my main line. Now we're going to take our threading tape and wrap it around this 1-inch male threaded fitting so I can screw on my 1-inch coupler right here. I'm going to lay that tape down, and I'm following the direction of the threading. So I'm looking at the pipe. The threading starts up here and it wraps around in this direction. So I'm going to follow that same direction when I am applying the tape. I'm starting up here, and then I'm going to wrap this around. So when I'm doing that threading connection, I want to cover the threads from top to bottom. I want to get about 3 or 4 rounds around all of those threads. And remember, the threading tape is what makes the connection watertight. So you really want to do a good job covering all the threads and making sure no dirt particles are getting layered into those threads. Now that that's all threaded up, taped up, I can screw my connection on. And now I want to tighten that down with a wrench. Remember that this connection is going to have water in it constantly. So we want to get this nice and tight, because if there's a leak here, that leak is going to be constant. If there's a leak after a valve, it's not a big deal. That's just going to come on when the valve comes on. But here, any leak is going to be a constant 24-hour leak. And I'm going to screw this as far as it feels comfortable, like it's not too difficult. And I don't want to over tighten either, because then I can damage the threads, and that will also cause a leak. So now we are ready to glue this elbow connection with the valve we made onto that threaded coupler. So same gluing technique. Going to glue around on one side and inside on the other side, making sure I cover all surfaces. And then I'm going to push it in and turn down to where I want it. In about 2 minutes, that's going to be dry enough for me to turn the water back on and close the valve. We've got everything ready, set up there for us to attach our manifold. Now we have to build our manifold, and this is what we're going for. I've dry fit all the parts of our manifold together, and this is what in the end we're wanting it to look like. The valve that we just attached is going to feed water right into here. That water is going to come up into these 4 lines where it's going to get split up, and then each valve is going to turn on and off and distribute water to the 4 different stations in our system. On these 2 valves, I've added the necessary fittings for us to connect back into the sprinkler lines that are existing in this garden. So we are still going to use those sprinkler lines. What I'm going to show you in the next video is how we cap off most of the sprinklers, and we convert the system from sprinklers to drip irrigation. So on these two, that's what we're going to do. We're going to convert the existing sprinkler systems to drip irrigation. On this side, we are going to just add only drip irrigation. So there's going to be a different set of fittings going on after the filter pressure regulator. So let's just review on each valve line the different parts so you can get a refresher of what's going on here. So at the bottom here, we have a slip by slip by slip tee. That, of course, is just teeing off of that main line that we are installing. That's coming up to a section of pipe. And to that section of pipe, we have this, a female slip connection with a male threaded connection on top. That's right there. On top of that, we have our union connection, which is female pipe thread by female pipe thread. And that is the connection that allows us to quickly disconnect this valve in case we need to make any repairs up here. We can easily just slide this on and off without having to cut any pipe. In the existing manifold, we had a completely glued connection. If we needed to change anything up here or replace any of these parts, we would have to cut this out, make the changes, and then glue everything back together, which can be annoying. So this allows us to have really easy repairs. On top of the union connection, we've just got a 6-inch nipple. That's male pipe thread and male pipe thread on both sides. That's screwed into that union. Then on top of the union, we have our valve. Again, that's what turns the water on and off. After the valve, we have our filter pressure regulator. So this does both filtering through the screen that is inside, along with reducing pressure. So when you have water coming in from a city line, you might have 50 or 60 psi of pressure on that, and your drip irrigation wants to be at a maximum of 30 psi, and this is a 30 psi pressure regulator. So this does both things we need done, and that is male pipe thread on both sides. So that's going to just screw right into our valve. And then after the valve, we have another union. Again, that facilitates that quick disconnection of this whole top portion. And below the union, we're going back to PVC pipe in the case of two of our valves. So a male pipe thread to go into the union and a female slip connection to go back into the pipe. And that's how this is all going to go together. So for all of these slip connections, which are below this point, I'm going to use glue. For all the threaded connections, I am going to use tape. What we're going to start with is building this frame of our manifold. So just all those glued connections we need to make, giving us the T's to come up to our valves. And also shut off on the end here. This is going to allow us to flush the system out if we need to. This again was not included in the old manifold, but this really helps, if you ever do any work on this side of the irrigation system and maybe some dirt got into the manifold, this allows us to easily just open that up, flush all that dirt out, close this up, and be done. And no dirt has come into our valves or into our filters. So yeah, this is going to be a pretty simple glue up. What I need to do is, I always just get a piece of cardboard so glue is not going onto any surfaces. And I want to be able to flatten this down so that everything is nice and on a level surface. So you want to be working on a flat surface. Other than that, same thing we've been doing before with the glue, completely covering the inside of the part and then completely covering the outside of the pipe. My glue up is done, and you can see all my pipes came in a pretty straight line. That's what I wanted, and they're nicely glued together. Just to reiterate, if there's any leaks on this side of this manifold, then that's going to be a constant leak. So you really want to do a good job getting your glue up together. The last few things we're going to glue are our female slip to male pipe thread adapters, which are going to go onto here, because everything after this is going to be a threaded connection that we have to tape together. My glue up is completely done, so this structural part of my manifold is ready. Now I'm going to start building that valve part of my manifold, which is all the threaded connections. This is what it should look like when it's done. Everything has, all the connections have tape, and they are nice and tight. And so I've prepped all of my other connections. I'm going to take them apart, tape them, and then put them back together nice and tight. So I'm going to start with this rear side of the valve and just start taping all of the male connections. And again, I'm finding where the thread starts at the top of the threading and which direction it's rotating down. And that's the direction that I'm going to put the tape. So it's starting here and it's rotating this way. I'm going to do the same thing with my tape. 1, 2, 3, 4 times around. Just break that off. Let's just do the other side at the same time. And now I can screw it in here. And you want to use a wrench to tighten this down. Same thing on the other side. And now I'm just going to continue on. For the filter pressure regulator, two things you got to know before you install this. One is that there is a flow direction. So this bulbous part of the fitting should be pointed down, and you'll see that flow arrow on the fitting that says going down. So that means that this should be installed this way. And to screw this on, you'll need to take the filter part off, otherwise you won't be able to rotate it in. So you take that off, rotate this on. And now I can put the filter screen back on. This is now all screwed together, really nice and tight. Shouldn't have any leaks. Now I'm just going to repeat this for the remaining 2 sets of these valves. We are in good shape now. We've got all of our valves threaded together, screwed together. We've got our frame all ready. Now we just got to screw all this together. So I'm going to add threading to each of these fittings. Then I'm going to just take my union off of here and screw it onto there, and then I can just drop my whole valve onto that fitting. Really easy. That's one of the benefits of using the unions. So let's just go through and do all that. Next step is to clear up some space so I can actually drop this in. This is going to be going in this way now. So I got to dig all that soil out and probably take out that bush, which is going to go anyways. So let's get to digging. Our excavation is all done. That was not easy, but we got it done. We are now ready to put our manifold into place. This is going to get glued into this valve right here. I also just want to show you, we are going to connect 2 of these valves back to the 2 existing stations. So if you remember from the beginning, we had our 2 valves over here. Each one was feeding one of these pipes. We're not going to connect back over here. I found where those 2 pipes were coming down over here. So we're going to cut into them here. We're going to remove this section of those 2 pipes. And we're going to connect this pipe to this valve and this pipe to this valve. so that those can start working immediately again. There's a lot of weight on this manifold, and I don't want that connection to move, so I'm just going to hold this in place while that glue sets. That's a really important glue up we just did, so we want to make sure that that is done really well. Our manifold is now set up, so let's start cutting into these pipes that are connected to our existing sprinkler stations. We're just going to cut these so that we can connect them to our 2 new valves and get those stations working immediately. I'm trying to line myself up so that the cut point is going to bring me up to the valve. Here's what we're going to do. We are going to put this male pipe threaded to female slip connection adapter into here. And once I have that threaded up and installed, then I'm just going to run a section of pipe, an elbow, a section of pipe, an elbow, and I'm going to connect right into this pipe. And then I'm going to repeat that same process with this valve, putting the same fitting here, section of pipe, elbow, section of pipe, elbow, section of pipe, and then a coupler to attach to this pipe over here. Made a few little mistakes trying to do this glue up, but I got that now done. So that valve is now connected to that station. Now let's finish it up with the second one. Okay, this is what I wanted to get to today. I wanted to get my manifold built. I wanted to get my manifold installed. I wanted to get 2 valves connected back to the existing stations. So this was my goal, to get everything prepped so that we are ready to now install drip irrigation for the garden and for the 4 stations that we're eventually going to have. My last thing that I need to do is to test everything, make sure everything's working really well. And this is also where our 2 valves that we installed are going to come in. So this shutoff valve is preventing any water from coming into this system right now. And then I've got the valve at the end. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up this valve here. That's going to shoot water through. We're going to leave that valve on the end open, and that is going to flush this system out. So we just put all this glue in there. There might be some like dried bits of glue, and we want to flush that out of the system so they don't come down into our drip irrigation or our existing sprinkler system. And yeah, once we flush everything out, then that's it. That's the end of our day today. Water is now charged into our manifold, so if we turn any of these sprinkler valves on manually, we should see water coming out. So let's turn on this one that's connected to our existing sprinkler system and just make sure everything's working. That's it. We are all done. Our valves are all set up, and we're ready to move on to installing our actual drip irrigation, which we're going to do in the next video of this series. Before I let you go, I just want to give you a few helpful notes. First thing is going to be to remember that you want to match the number of valves in your manifold to the number of stations that you have. And so plan out your stations first. That's what we did in one of our previous lessons. Make sure you know the number of stations you need. And then also you can plan for some expansion. So just like on this manifold, I left some space where I can easily add a valve or 2 later. You want to plan for the same thing because you never know, your plans might change. Second thing I want to note is the pipe size. So for most residential applications, a 3/4 inch pipe is going to be fine. But if you're working at a community garden or an urban farm, you want to use the largest size pipe that you can. So on this system, we had a 1-inch pipe on our main line. I could have kept that as a 1-inch pipe all the way through the manifold. And if this was a larger project, I would have done that. But for residential, like I said here, 3/4 inch is fine. And with that, I wish you good luck on your project. I know this can be a daunting task, but hopefully the steps and all the information I've provided have been clear and lay it out easy for you. Remember, you can also check the written reference guide that is attached to this video, which will have a lot of diagrams and information about the different parts. So reference that as well. And other than that, I want to say, no garden too small, no soil too poor. This is the Never Ending Gardening course, and I'm Farmer Rishi.